If you like this video, please give it a like and hit subscribe. Hit the notification bell not to miss more content coming soon. Welcome back to another episode of FPL Squad Picks. In today's video, we're going to take a look at last week's points review, take a look at this week's transfer options, team selection for this week, and captaincy. We're also going to take a little look at the double game weeks coming up soon. So here's a quick rundown from the results from Game Week 23. We had Aston Villa get a win against Arsenal, with Watkins finding the net again, consecutive games now. He seems to be doing well, people who have him in their squad. We've got some people moving early on Burnley players ready for this coming game week in Game Week 24. And I think a lot of people went for the defenders like me or Trukowski and Pope. Unfortunately, they weren't able to keep a clean sheet against Brighton, who managed to get one and equalise. So I think they're hoping for some points return happen this week for those early movers. Newcastle managed to find their shooting boots against struggling Southampton, who had a few players return from injury, but still with a lot of their players out at the moment. So still not got that form that we've seen earlier on in the season. But Newcastle doing well. But they have now recently lost Wilson and lost some key defenders as well with a few injuries. So we'll see how they fare now with some of their bench moves. We've also had a blank then in the Fulham-West Ham game. I'm not sure if that was Fulham keeping them out or West Ham just not having a particularly good game. But blanks for all of Antonio, Souček, the usual hitters for us. And a bit of anything you can do, we can do just as well. And United Everton ended in a 3-3 draw, so lots of goals, lots of action. DCL was warming my bench and he managed to get a good points return, which was a bit frustrating, but I think looking back on it, that you've been hard pushed to get any points at all, so to come away with 12 points was a really good haul for him. We've also got Kane and Son. Kane back, Son assisting. Same old story. So they managed to get a 2-0 against West Brom. So that was good for them and came back a lot earlier than we expected. And you can see it's just changed the Spurs team. I know that we've had the FA Cup game since with Everton, which was crazy, for a low block team that normally Mourinho sets up. A 5-4 result was crazy between the two, but it obviously shows that they can both score goals now that Kane's back, and that is with DCL in their team for Everton. But unfortunately, it looks like he's going to be out injured. So again, it's going to be one of those things now. Is Richarlison going to take that mantle, or will their new signing King come in and be as effective? So only time will tell. We've had City also come back with a storming result against the champions. It was a bit of an up and down game to begin with, but they just came through in the end and just couldn't stop them. And even Liverpool's goal was a penalty only. They couldn't score from open play. So Pep's guys actually keeping them out and doing really well in attack there as well. And we've got a Leeds return. We had a really good result for them, keeping a clean sheet. And you've got, again, the usual people getting involved. You've got Dallas, Rafinha, Bamford, all getting in amongst the points. So, ones to watch, especially with their Game Week 25 double game week coming up. If you'd like to keep up to date with the latest video posts, locked in team selections, and chat during the game week, then you can follow me on Twitter at FPL Squad Picks. So here's my team from the Game Week 23. Started off a little bit slow, but actually finished on a decent points haul. Got a total of 89 points and a green arrow. That was a rank rise of 173,222. So I got my current rank there up in the top right hand corner. Missed out on a few bench points, which is a bit disappointing. I had Calvert-Lewin benched. Looking back on it again, I still wouldn't have probably put him in against the Man United team that has been doing quite well recently. Certainly not to get 12 points anyway. And also Martinez did really well to keep a clean sheet. Bonus points there as well. and beat McCarthy up against the Newcastle that were struggling, but seemed to do well against them with a lot of their own players out. So on the whole, quite happy with that. Not a bad week at all. Just sort of bittersweet that I could have had an over 100-point week in a single game week as well, but just about missed out. So this game week was with no transfers. I did look at a few different options. I was trying to plan, maybe do I bring someone in ready for this double game week that's coming in week 24? Looking at the Burnley players, do I change McCarthy and bring in Pope? Turns out that would have been sort of a like for like really with the points. I mean, I think Pope ended up getting 2 points overall, so I'd have had one more. But I still would have wanted to play McCarthy this week. And then I was thinking, do I keep him for the following game week after that? Because Southampton are going to have a double game week. So do I really want to change him? Maybe I could look at a defender. At the time, Justin wasn't yellow flagged. So I was looking at that and thinking, who do I have to transfer out? Would it be potentially Trent against a Man City team? But then Liverpool's fixtures are looking to get better. So there wasn't really anyone that I was really desperate to bring in. It was more sort of planning for this double game week, and after a lot of sort of deliberation, I just thought, you know what, I think I'm going to stick with this team, and I think it's proved quite well. I had 2 free transfers even, so I just rolled over the same 2, but it wasn't needed. I think I was quite happy with all the players, and keeping the faith in Foden has paid off. He's been up there attacking, sort of getting in amongst the action a lot of the time. But this week he finally found the net, he got assists. Gundogan gave us all a bit of a scare by skying that penalty option over the top, but thankfully then he made up for it and came back, still with a double-digit point haul, which is great. The Souček red card, I think less said on that the better. We were all very shocked when that happened. Shame that we can't get those points reinstated now that the red card has been overruled, but good to know that at least he's back in the fold now. So and it wasn't hurt too badly with the whole. He had some goals and had minus points off those, and it was just a flat 0. So anyone that benched him that week obviously would have benefited from that, but there weren't a massive points there anyway, to be honest. My defender's doing really well. Justin's been great and consistent. Such a shame that he's out injured now. Dallas as well, pushing further and further forward, getting in amongst those goals, getting in amongst the options for assists. So yeah, brilliant choices there. And West Ham keeping a clean sheet against Fulham. So my 2 premium defenders benched was a good choice, and didn't bite me too hard like they did last, I think it was 2 weeks ago, when I had Trent Alexander-Arnold on my bench with a double-digit haul. So yeah, quite pleased with my squad this week, especially for a team without any transfers made. Okay, so thinking of transfers for this game week 24, there's a lot of potential injuries within my squad. This snapshot was taken a little bit earlier, where we've now had some information where we know Justin's going to be out. He's gone to a red flag. We've also had an update from Carlo Ancelotti saying that Calvert-Lewin will miss the first game at least against Fulham, which is kind of the one that everyone wants him for, not really against the Man City boys. But then again, he has shown that he can score against United, so who knows, he might still be able to get some points there, but maybe not for people to bring him in if they haven't already got him. Antonio is still a bit on the fence. His talks that he's been in training, and that he could potentially be ready, because obviously their game doesn't take place until Monday, so they've got the entire weekend now to be able to recover and rest up and get him training to see how he can fare. And I think they would like to play him if they could, even if it might mean he gets a 60-minute play out. So those are the potential injuries within my team. I have got one eye on the fixtures to come, so it is a bit of, do I go for some of the more obvious choices for this single game weeks going on this week, or do I go for those double game weeks, or do I look ahead and look to plan towards game week 25, which has also got a double game week? So here's a few of my options. If you're enjoying the video and would like to support the channel, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below. Now let's get back to it. So as it's a double game week this week, I think it's only fair that we start with the double game week players that people are looking to bring in. So here you can see I have transferred out McCarthy for Pope as one option. He's got really good potential for clean sheets this week, and next week they actually play a single game week, but it's against West Brom, so again it's a good sort of 3 next fixtures on the bounce. After that they don't look too great, the fixtures, but I have got Martinez, so I could rotate between the two, and he's shown that he can still, he's got good shot stopping ability and get some good points even for games where you don't necessarily think that they're going to do as well or keep a clean sheet. I was thinking about doing this last week and sort of opted out of it, and my reasoning for that was because Southampton have a double game week in game week 25, and is it sort of a wise choice to bring someone else in for a double game week and next week, so I'm going to be losing out next week. There is an option to change Martinez, I suppose, but I think overall he's got the better fixtures and he's been a lot more consistent than McCarthy. So I think I'd rather have him as a second option keeper to go to. There's another option to take a bit of a punt, and I could go for a Burnley or Everton forward. I know that Calvert-Lewin is out at the moment, so you could put Richarlison in for like, or I could even look at someone like Barnes or Rodriguez. They're both obviously going to deputise in for the injured Wood for Burnley. So there's a few different options to go for, but I think overall Pope is probably one of the most safest bets and one of the ones that a lot of people are going to be going for. And even with losing McCarthy for the double game week next week, it's not the easiest of fixtures, and they would have then a Burnley side against a West Brom side, so you'd be hoping for another clean sheet within the 3 fixtures across 2 weeks. If I was to look at a different transfer, I could potentially bring in a forward in the form of Cavani. Now, when I was thinking about this, there wasn't as much information as there is at the moment, so Antonio and Calvert-Lewin were both yellow flags, but I know that Calvert-Lewin has now been sort of upgraded a little bit more to a sort of darker orange, and I think he is going to be out for at least the Fulham game and potentially coming back in for the Man City game, which is not going to be as appealing. But there's a chance that because the Monday night game for West Ham, he's got an extra weekend, so it's 2 days worth now of recovery and extra training for Antonio, he might make it. So there could be an opportunity here just to switch that round and transfer out Dominic Calvert-Lewin instead of Antonio. The only reason that I chose Antonio more so out of the two when they were both seen to be just maybes is looking forward at West Ham's fixtures. They don't get any easier at the moment. I think they've got a few big 6 within the next few game weeks. So we'll have to see if Antonio will keep his place going forward, or it could be a potential to switch out for someone like Bamford. Along with that move, if I wanted to double up on the double game week options and still bring in someone that's going to be playing twice, it could switch out the injured Justin for Ben Mee. Now there's a few options across the defensive line for Burnley, but I think that he is someone that can potentially get the most bonus points out of that back line. So it really depends on what your budgets will allow. So there I've got both Cavani and Ben Mee. So I've gone for a good option in the single game week with United against West Brom, and then I've also picked someone who's got good fixtures, potential clean sheets, but has got a double game week. Because obviously having Calvert-Lewin out would mean that only my Man City players, so the 3 would be a double game week. This would just add an extra player to that setup. So could be a bit of a differential having someone like Ben Mee in. But I think maybe a few other people might be looking at him this week just because of that double game week, if they are not already going for Nick Pope. So as you can see, I've already got Fernandes in my team, and I've already talked about bringing Cavani in. But I think United are a good team to turn to at the moment, with especially the run of fixtures that they've got. And next week I think they've got Newcastle. So even if you're just selecting single game week players to come in, with an eye on looking forward to even game week 26. It's likely that Man United are going to have a double game week then. If you haven't got a wild card to play or a free hit, it could be some good picks within that United team with a good run of 2 fixtures coming up the next 2 game weeks before the double comes in 26. You could look to build your squad slowly with the likes of players like Luke Shaw in defence, Wan-Bissaka, so you could look for a few clean sheets in amongst those. All bring in a differential. So you've got Martial, you've got Rashford, even Greenwood is getting more and more regular starts, and he's pushing for that goal. I don't think it'll be too long before we start seeing him getting in amongst the action of assists and goals. So definitely ones to look out for. But I think my plan at the moment is maybe not to go too heavy that way. I have got 2 free transfers, and if I don't use them both this week for a Ben Mee and a Cavani, bringing those players in, it could be that I could use them next week to bring in some Leeds players, or even look at some returning players for Southampton, depending on how well they do this week coming. But the main point of having the 2 transfers rolling over is really to build towards that game week 26, and looking to bring in those Spurs assets. I haven't got Kane or Son in this team at the moment, but I know that they will be players that I will be looking towards come that double game week in game week 26 if they've got decent fixtures. So just something to bear in mind with funds, making sure I'm not sort of spreading the money across too thinly. I previously had quite a cheap front line. If I did bring Cavani in, it sort of starts upping that money a little bit. Even Ben Mee, is going from a Justin who I got for a little bit cheaper at the time, who's risen up to 5 million for bringing in another 5 million player. Is there potential maybe to hold on to Justin, and even hold on to Antonio for now, and downgrade Calvert-Lewin with him being out for a little while, just to keep that funding in the bank, so then when I do come to look at maybe bringing in a Kane or bringing in Son, it's not going to be 2 transfers needed to do that. So we'll have to wait and see, but yes, definitely something to keep in mind. So here's my team if I was to make only the one change and bring in Cavani this week. And these are the players that I'd be looking to potentially bench. Obviously Justin is sort of self-explanatory with him being injured, and the same with Calvert-Lewin. But it'd be difficult really benching Sofal at this point, because they are against a team where Sheffield United, you're not really expecting a lot of attacking returns from them. But it's just also then thinking, could I bench Souček in his place and play 4 at the back? Or do I play Sofal instead of Dallas? But then you're potentially missing out on the attacking returns of Dallas against Arsenal, who have looked a bit weaker in the back. But we just can't predict that at the moment. So it's really going to be a case of go for it, make a decision, and hope for the best. But again, if you look at the sort of setup that I've got here, I'm already having to bench someone that I potentially don't really want to bench, or has got a good fixture. If I start making double changes, like bringing in Nick Pope, for instance, I'm going to have to bring Martinez on to the bench against the Brighton team, which again is a good fixture. If I change Justin for Ben Mee, I'm already sort of not 100% with bringing Sofal or Dallas onto the bench. That gives me another player that I've got to consider. Who do I bench? Do I even potentially look at Trent Alexander-Arnold benching with Cancelo hopefully having a double game week? He sort of is self-picks. Do I go for 1 up front and go for 4 at the back? Or do I drop Souček as well and go for even more and go for a very heavy defensive team? Just throws a lot more sort of questions into the mix really, and making a lot more hard bench decisions. So I think it might be just a case of this week maybe looking at the Nick Pope move, because it's something that it wouldn't hurt the rest of the team so much in terms of who do I bench, who do I keep. It's just a straight switch for Martinez. And if I do hopefully get some good news that Antonio is playing, I've got both Antonio and Watkins up front, and I could still go for 5 midfield. I've got 3 at the back then, but I've also got 1 on the bench waiting, that if someone doesn't play, if Antonio didn't make it, Sofal or Dallas could potentially come into place for them. So I think if I start thinking about it too much and adding too many players to this, even though it would build for the next weeks, I think it's just probably going to be a better idea to transfer that over and get 2 transfers next week. And then maybe if Calvert-Lewin is still injured or Antonio is still injured, maybe look to bring in a Bamford. Even look at then transferring Souček and changing him over to Rafinha. So I'd have 3 players with Dallas for Leeds in that game week 25. So that would then use up my transfers, which I've still got a wild card. So that potentially means I could use that wild card going into 26 once we know more about who's playing and if this team doesn't really fit within that game week. With captaincy this week, I've got a bit of a decision to make between Bruno Fernandes and Gundogan. I think a lot of FPL managers are having the same debate at the moment. You've got Bruno, who's got the single game week, but against a really good fixture with West Brom. Saying that, it was only a 1-0 game in the last time they played each other, but it was Bruno that got that 1 goal from a penalty. So there's the likelihood, is that same sort of scenario going to happen again, where West Brom are going to be defending and potentially bring someone down in the box, and Bruno's going to step up for another penalty, or they're going to run away with it if we get a first goal in, say for United, early on, and then West Brom are chasing, and United are doing the whole counter game. Are they going to end up with another 9-0 like in the previous fixture against Southampton? But then you've got the Man City boys. Gundogan did start in the FA Cup, which was a bit of a shock. But he was also brought off then a good sort of nearly 20 minutes before the end of the fixture. So you'd like to think he's been rested. And with Kevin De Bruyne out, we all know that Pep has been singing his praises at the moment, Gundogan, and saying how vital he is to the team. Winning awards at the moment this month for sort of best player, and just been a really sort of good, consistent player for them, even if he did miss the penalty recently. And there's been talk of even potentially Edison looking to take the next one, but I think he'd probably get another shot at it, seeing as he came back and scored some in-play goals and assisted. So it's really a toss-up between the two, I think. I don't think I can bank on Foden starting both fixtures. I think Gundogan is more of a sure thing with both starting both games, or at least playing in both games. And then it's just a case of, are the appearance points and a potential clean sheet in either of those games going to double up and make a lot more than what Bruno Fernandes can do in that one game against West Brom? So it's a hard decision at the moment. I've got it set on Bruno at the moment, but I think I am starting to sort of come around to the idea of, even though they're tough double game week fixtures, we've just seen Everton and Tottenham play together in the FA Cup, and it was a 5-4 fixture. So both defences can leak goals, and against an in-form Man City team, you'd like to think that Gundogan would be involved. So here are the double game week fixtures that have been announced for game week 24, which is this one coming, and the next one after that then, which is game week 25. So this week we've got Burnley v Fulham and Everton v Man City. So we've got those 4 teams playing twice in this game week. In the game week 25, we've got the Leeds and Southampton fixture that was rearranged due to a Southampton FA Cup fixture that needed to be played. So next week we've got the Leeds boys and the Southampton players that are going to be sort of another talking point for them. With the Southampton team not doing great, I think a lot of eyes will be on them this week, especially against a Wolves team that hasn't been doing great as well. So I think if we see a lot of attacking returns from them, they might pop up to conversation a bit more. But at the moment, I think a lot of conversation is around the Leeds players. Here I've got a bit of a rundown of all the players that people have either got in their team, are looking to bring in for this week, really with the double game week that's going on. Here are the 4 teams that are playing twice. Some I've mentioned throughout the video already, others haven't, but they're sort of a like for like. So I've got the Burnley team then, a lot of people have mentioned already, with Nick Pope being in their thoughts. Ben Mee is another option, but you could look at potentially any of that back line of defence, so I've put them all down there. Even if you want to take an outside chance and go for one of the strikers, like I said, Barnes and Rodriguez could come in and do well with Wood out at the moment. You've also then got the Man City players. These are some of the selection that you could go for if you haven't already got a double or triple City set up in your team. I think if people have got the money, a lot of people are looking at Sterling this week, which could be a good option. But there's not to say that Gundogan and Foden couldn't steal the show again as they did in the last week, or even Mahrez get in amongst the goals. So it's really a choice that you have to make yourself. Hope for the best. Hope that Pep doesn't rotate too much from the usual that we expect to see, and that they both get games across the two fixtures that are being played, or if you've got a triple up, that they're all sort of play some minutes and do something within those games for you. With the Everton players, I've left out Calvert-Lewin on this, obviously for obvious reasons with his injury at the moment. But looking around the team, they looked pretty good against Spurs, even though they did let in a lot of goals. Attacking-wise, Digny was great, showing his old sort of form a little bit there. Can definitely get in on the assists. Rodriguez is becoming a key part of their midfield, and also again one of those attack-minded players that will get you some points. Even Sigurdsson is having a bit of a resurgence, looking quite strong at the moment. And Richarlison looking to prove a point, looking to get in amongst the goals, and might even be more successful now without Calvert-Lewin there. He might sit in that number 9 role and get a lot more of the ball played into him. Fulham, not a lot of people have looked at them, I don't think, throughout this game week, but they're definitely ones not to sort of forget about if you wanted to go for a Fulham player. They're against an Everton team which we've seen can leak goals, and Burnley, they're strong defensively, not very strong in attack, so you could look at someone in the defence or even their goalkeeper, but here I've gone for more of their attacking lineup. So Mitrovic has been bench warming a lot, but could potentially come in to find those goals for Fulham that are desperately needed. Lookman has shown that he can hit the ground running. He's a very dangerous player. Can slip through attacks and hopefully get some points. Cavallero and Deco-Reid, again, both attacking minded players for Fulham. Hasn't shown consistency really, but again, it's up to you. If you wanted to go for sort of cheaper options or differentials, there's certainly ones that could be looked at as well. Feel free to leave a comment below about who you think will be vital this week and going forward. If you feel I've missed anyone, put their name below to hear mine and other managers' thoughts. If you like this video, please give it a like and hit subscribe. Hit the notification bell not to miss more content coming soon. Thanks for watching.